to simply say that we're going to ban the use of client money to hedge client investments is obviously going to backfire.
Matt Murphy, Happy New Year. Welcome back to Dukascopy TV.
Great, thank you very much.
No problem at all. Now, firstly, let's talk about these moves by the federal government to curtail hedging. Can you firstly provide us with an outline to the government's approach to this issue?
Sure. Well, the government's recently released a consultation paper, the Enhanced Protection of Client Money. Now, the government's approach to this is to ban the use of client money for hedging. In theory, it might sound sensible. Having said that, with slightly more understanding around the subject matter, it effectively means that firms can no longer use their clients' money to hedge their clients' investments, which means that firms are now put into a position where they must run risk. And ironically, they're running risk in order to reduce risk to the client. So that is the key issue that we have with this particular policy. I'm a director of the CFD and Margin FX Association, representing over 13 companies, over 320 staff, and collectively we're doing over 3 trillion per annum in transaction volumes. And we're all very concerned about it because we would like to think that this is a great opportunity to genuinely provide better protection to retail clients. However, the current approach is an attempt, but with deeper understanding of the flow-on effects and how the industry actually operates, we certainly don't believe that it will achieve the intention of better protecting clients.
Now, again, if we look at sort of the history of what this is based on, locally, we're looking at the collapse of companies such as BBY, for example, but this actually goes back over to the UK collapse of Alperi. But what differences are there between the models that are being used there and therefore the regulation that's been put in place in the UK and the models used here in Australia?
Sure. Well, look, the simple difference is in the UK, money cannot be used for hedging client orders, and in Australia, it can be used for client money can be used to hedge client orders. Now, it's fascinating that we're moving from Australia and it's going down to push towards the UK regulatory regime. But interestingly enough, the collapse of MF Global is the clearest example. Australian CFD clients lost 1 cent in the dollar, while the FX clients in Australia got 100 cents in the dollar. They got all their money back. In the UK, they lost around 10 cents in the dollar, yet we're using the collapse of MF Global as a reason to follow the UK regulatory system, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to us. Hence, the industry and certainly the association would like the government to look a little bit more deeply of what the repercussions are and use an evidence-based system. We're looking at things like, for example, as you mentioned, the collapse of BBY. By all reports, that was an event of fraud, and there are certain things that we could do to address that around accounting principles, tighter directives to auditors, amongst other things, so we can look at tightening up regulations to avoid or do the best of our ability to try and address issues of fraud. Having said that, this particular proposal from the government will do absolutely nothing to prevent fraud. And so, again, we would like to take this opportunity to genuinely address the risks faced by retail clients in this industry.
Well, not only for clients, but if we look at the trickle-down effects, should legislation be implemented, what are the impact for, smaller to medium businesses within this sector?
Sure. Well, look, the industry's become a very competitive landscape, and I think that this has been pushed by a few large foreign companies with spread betting origins, meaning that they come from an origin where they take the other side of the client transaction, i.e. they're making money from client losses, which is different, and they have certain tax implications in the UK which don't exist in Australia. So it's created a very different landscape. Now, these companies have obviously got a large incentive to push this legislation because it'll have very different impacts. If you're an Australian firm that's hedging the majority of your investments and you're concentrating on profitable clients, this is a major problem. If you're a large spread betting firm that is not hedging the orders to this extent, then obviously it's of great advantage to you. So I think that the heart and the other big heart of the problem with this is the competition angle, where it's quite obvious if you have a look at the size of our association and how much competition we are providing in this market, and obviously innovation, jobs, contribution to the Australian economy, and to lose all of that to follow a policy which has in practice proven not to work doesn't make a whole lot of sense to us.
So if the government legislation is, as you say, actually going to end up more pushing at risk those that it's seeking to protect, what is an alternative route that the government could perhaps go to better protect clients?
Look, absolutely. We are in, and to make it very clear, we are in full support of better protection, and we think that there are a number of initiatives that the government should make and obviously are looking to make. But the key issues are around better definitions of assets and liabilities to make sure that firms cannot continue to trade while they're insolvent. Better direction to auditors to make sure that at the moment we have an issue where firms are trading insolvent yet amazingly managing to get through their audit. And I think that we need to prescribe tighter directions to auditors so this doesn't continue to happen. The case of MF Global and others, there clearly needs to be tighter definitions and clarity legally so that client money that's used for hedging in the event of insolvency is ultimately returned back to clients. And the other final piece of it would be that there obviously are concerns where some clients using money for hedging may be putting this at risk, but this is a very small portion of the market that potentially are doing this, and this could be dealt with directly through, for example, direct authorisations to use the client money for hedging, where you would have to actually explain to the regulators as to how it is you're using the client money, making sure that you have appropriately policies around which counterparties you're using to make sure that that client money is indeed safe while it's being used for hedging. But the real key to it is to simply say that we're going to ban the use of client money to hedge client investments is obviously going to backfire.
Matt Murphie, many thanks for the update. We look forward to more news on this.
Great. Thank you very much for having me.
This is certainly a story that we will continue to follow. Our many thanks there to Matt Murphie, Managing Director of FP Markets. You've been watching Sydney Direct for Dukascopy TV. I'm Natalie MacDonald, and I'll see you next time.